If you're a CTO or a CEO or a founder and you're looking to hire software engineers for your startup, I have something for you. Now, I read a bunch of job posts looking to hire either like a founding engineer or even bringing on another CTO or a principal engineer or staff engineer. I read all of those and I found a lot of problems with them. Mostly is that they're a bit outdated and they don't really take into account the agentic era that we're in. The other thing is, it seems like you're hiring for a unicorn and unicorns don't exist. So today we're going to talk about these specific job posts, a few specific job posts that are out there and what they could do better and how you can find the best engineer that you're looking for. I'm Ken Vermeille, and this is the Vermillion Podcast, where we learn about software engineering in the AI era. So let's get into it. You're looking for software engineers, you're looking for a principal mobile engineer or senior iOS engineer or any one of those. And a lot of the times it might seem a little bit simple. I just hire this person, they come on staff, and then automatically the app is built and everything is good. Most of the times that's actually not what happens. When building a mobile app, there is a lot of things that go into it. It's not just that initial engineer. And don't get me wrong, there are people out there, I exist, who could come in, build your mobile app from scratch, front end, back end, everything, and they can work the 40 hours and get it done. Those people do exist, but those people are rare. And so when I see job posts and I see people essentially asking for the sun, moon, and the stars, I kind of see why it's taking you 3 or 4 months to actually bring on somebody that's good. Now, some would say that there's a software engineering shortage or the jobs are going away in software engineering. There's not. We're actually at a pretty high point right now. But I would also say that it hasn't gotten easier to bring on software engineers, specifically for 2 reasons. One, people have completely outsourced the HR hiring process to AI. There are job boards like Ashby and Lever, which provide some AI tools, but in the previous podcast, the podcast before this, we talked about how that doesn't work. You essentially have to hire for passion, and you have to hire for the type of person who's going to be really, really invested in your product. So from what we see today, job posts like this doesn't work. So let's go through the first one. Founding mobile engineer, React Native. Okay, so pays about $200K to $250K per year. That's a little bit of equity, 0.60%. Also, we're not naming names because we're not naming names. Experience listed, 1 year required. But the second section says 2+ years in React Native. Could be a typo. Maybe we'll see. It's a YC-backed team of 6 in San Francisco, and they're doing a social platform, creating and sharing AI mini apps. Off the back, like I'm looking at this and I'm essentially seeing that they're trying to, they want somebody fresh and new, 1 year in React Native, which is good, right? Well, actually, no, it says 2 years in React Native, and they want to do AI mini apps. Now, I know that the job has changed, and because the job has changed, 1 year is not enough, but whatever. Let's jump right into it. So they want this person to build and ship the whole app in React Native across iOS and Android. That's what React Native does. You could ship both applications in iOS and Android within one code base, but there are caveats. The next thing is this is it. Own core surfaces, the mini app runtime, the feed, the creation flow, sharing. Make the architectural decisions, own performance, animation smoothness. Yeah, 2 years React. Okay, so pretty much everything, right? They want to manage the mini apps, do the feed, all that stuff. I do hope that they have a backend engineer because a React Native engineer can't do this by themselves. But Here it is. Work directly with the founders and the founding designer. Idea to ship in days. Possible, but if they want if you're creating a user-generated app or allowing your users to create these things, you're gonna need another layer, right? And also, this is not somebody. This is not somebody who's been working in the industry for 2 years. This is a fairly difficult build. I could already see that there are just things that don't work. Anyway, what are they screening for? 2 years of production in React Native, not just Expo demos. Okay, fine, fair. People can definitely just ship out an Expo demo and then essentially think that that's good enough. I'm reliving some war stories right now. React Native internals, so like the bridge, JSA fabric, the new architecture, important. Let's just kind of speed through here. Web views with tight native to web communication. Maybe. This actually, I'm kind of, the interesting with having a web view within your app and going through the approval process is if you do that, you might get rejected by the App Store. A good engineer would say, hey, don't do this. Actually, I might need to reach out to these people. Daily shipping cadence, maybe, depending. I mean, if you're building, daily shipping comes with a mature product. You don't necessarily do that off the bat. And TypeScript and modern React patterns. You don't really need to be testing for TypeScript or anything like that anymore. So, nice to have. High daily active user, consumer or social apps, mini app plugin architecture, web view, like a whole bunch of stuff that's not within the 1 year, well, the 1 or 2 years. And the way that they ask you to apply is to send them a list of apps, which is tough and a little bit terrible. Now, what's wrong with this? You're hiring for 2 years of experience, let's say 2+ years or 1 to 2 years or whatever, but you're not going to, somebody who's been in mobile engineering for 1 to 2 years is not going to be able to create a high daily active user application because there are pitfalls. And a lot of the pitfalls don't necessarily come when you're building the initial application. The pitfalls come where it's launched and it's live and people on the Android side can't use the application because it's broken, or people on or they don't have the latest version, or you shipped a really nice animation and it breaks on like 3% of phones and you don't know why. You need a little bit of like stuff there. This also kind of sounds like a wish list of having one person kind of do the entire application and figure all of this out. It's tough. It's really tough. And 1 to 2 years is not enough. Problem here with this engineering job post is that there's a scope to hire mismatch, meaning that the scope, even over the course of a year, having one kind of mid-junior engineer work on your app 24/7, even with AI, even with, spending $500 in credits, you're not going to get the output that you're looking for because you're building something new and you need a little bit more than just having a designer and a founder coming together and building everything out. I hope you have a back-end team, and you might be getting a message from me. Next post. So, founding mobile engineer, React Native, location California, hybrid, 3 days a week in the office, which is cool. Competitive salary and meaningful early stage equity, health and dental, which is awesome. 5+ years. All right, we're already starting on something that's pretty good. 5 years. Founded by a couple of ex-FANG people, AI native social commerce, works like a couple of companies that I'm not going to name. Okay, here's what they want this one person to do. Own the mobile platform end to end. Architect, build, and shipped React Native app on iOS and Android, and make the foundational decisions for years to come. 5+ years. Okay. ship AI-powered features. It looks like everybody's trying to build kind of some type of AI feature, which is interesting. So insights, real-time agent interactions, define the mobile infrastructure, architectural patterns, shared components, testing strategies, CI/CD pipelines, performance standards. Integrate across the stack, TikTok, Meta, Instagram, Shopify, backend services, boom. And then collaborate with the founders, product and design on what to build. Set the quality bar, monitoring, error tracking, and performance optimization. I've also kind of cut this down and done some anonymous things so that, you can't guess who it is. So what they want is, actually off the bat, before we kind of go into what they want, what I'm seeing here is you want one person to essentially do everything across 2 platforms using 5 different external services. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 different external services, essentially making the foundational core decisions on how to build the app, how to grow and scale the company, and kind of just figure it out. But they do get dental. Here's the thing. This is not a one, just off of that, even just before going into everything, this is not a one-person job. This is a team. Now, the problem with React Native is, yes, you're able to build on both iOS and Android, but there's a lot of things that break on iOS that won't break on Android, and it's the same thing vice versa. You really need somebody, and I hope that we get into this. I actually wasn't able to deep dive into these job posts. Well, I did, but I didn't do the analysis yet. But you'll get into these issues and where things break, and if you don't have a full or a good fundamental understanding of the core architectures of the source platform. So if you don't really know Swift, or if you don't know Objective-C, and then you're doing stuff in React Native, you'll get but so far. There are things from the performance perspective and where you have to do it in the core platform. You can't skip it. You can't go around it. I mean, maybe you could kind of sort of do it, but especially an app, again, another type of social app, in where you're going to be building AI components, or at least letting other people build AI components, you're going to need that performance. And then you also need other things like the main thing here that I hope that they're going to ask for is just the core competence. But even if that's the case, that is not one person. It's still many people working together. It's still, hey, Jim, stuff is going on Android, or hey, Bob, or Sally, here are some things. Here's some things that marketing is looking at, or our attention dropped, and it's because of people on this device have bad retention, and that's not a one-person engineering job. That's many people. Now, I also suspect from them asking this is that their scope might be too big for this initial build out. You do have to match the scope for the initial hire. If you're bringing on somebody and you don't really have a code base, or you have maybe a AI generated code base, most of the time they're going to have to come in and scrap everything and then rebuild from scratch. And that rebuild, again, even though we have some of these AI tools, it is going to take time. There's no, yes, there's shortcuts, but when you're building something that is substantial, or if you're building something that requires a moat, you have to take the time to actually architect it and build it correctly. And usually you want somebody with a little bit more than 5 years of experience. So let's see what they're screening for. 5+ years in software engineering with deep React Native. Cool. Track record of shipping production mobile apps at high quality. Great, right? That's essentially what everybody would like to do. External API integration and real-time data intensive. Okay, anytime that I hear external API integration, every software engineer does external API integrations. There's no, unless you're building a calculator app only, right? That's all that it does. Everything has external API integrations. Comfortable across the stack, not blocked, waiting on backend. Yeah, this founding mobile engineer actually needs to be a full stack engineer with deep mobile experience and can actually go in and implement backend features on their own, especially this early on. Really, your first engineering hire is going to be the guy that does everything. He's going to be the guy that goes into the kitchen, like if restaurant reference, he's going to be the guy that goes into the kitchen, cuts the potatoes, sets the meat up, sweeps and mops and closes at the end of the night. He is going to do everything, and it's difficult. Startup mentality, high ownership, bias of action, comfort and ambiguity. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much any good engineer. And I think, okay, boom, here it is. Bonus points. Native iOS or Android and bridging native modules, social e-commerce, commerce background, Shopify Plus, LLMs, AI agents, all that stuff. Yeah, definitely native experience is important, especially when you're doing something like this that's consumer based, that's built on Shopify. Shopify really has some great APIs that you could instantly implement into your shopping experience. So, yeah, it's one founding hire that's asked to own architecture, all the AI features, build everything out on on their own. Probably is going to be overworked. Maybe this works if they work 80 hours a week for 6 days a week. Maybe it works out, but really this is an engineering team. You don't hire one of these people, you hire two or three to get the job done. Now, jumping into our last one for today, senior mobile engineer. These are all mobile engineers. There's a bias here. From my hometown of New York, pay $150K to $225K base. Solid. Equity, 0.25 or no, it's not even 1%, but hey, that's fine. Experience, 3+ years. Good-ish. We'll see what they're asking for. I see back, team of 4, building something in consumer, travel, and fintech. Okay, so here's what they want one person to do. Own the development and maintenance of the entire React Native apps across iOS and Android. Cool. That's fine. That is a job if it is not a lot of interactions. But here we go. Architect scalable mobile infrastructure, performance, reliabilities, clean state management. Still, not bad. Build a specific feature, search, wallet, rewards, experiences for complex travel flows. Here's where it breaks down. Now, when you're working with Apple Wallet or any type of wallet, there are specific ways that you do things. And if you don't know how these work, like the back of your hand, you're going to implement something, you're going to, get rejected or things like that. But this company does have backend engineers, because what they're asking as well is, you need to be able to work with backend engineers, APIs for consumer travel, dining, shopping, and transfers. So cool that they have great backend engineers, because a lot of those wallet features do happen on the back end. You need to really have a good understanding of how that works on the front end. Then we have implement mobile security features for our authentication, payments, and consumer data. Here's another thing where a person on the team should own. Anytime that there's money, you want to have somebody whose job is to deal with that money. You don't want one person to do architecture, do this, do that, and then you don't have somebody who owns the fintech aspect of your application. Fintech is one mobile hire because things change. Again, prefer full stack for this, because when there's a bug, yes, if you have two people on it, awesome. But if one person can come in, fix the bug, then life is great. Or if there is fraud or anything like that, you want somebody whose entire job is to manage that. Actually, you want a team of people to just manage the fintech stuff. But since they're a team of 4, this next person should definitely be a full stack superstar. 150K to 225 in New York isn't necessarily going to cut it. This is also another kind of wish list, like maybe hoping. Maybe the equity does work depending on how much money that they've raised, but otherwise, no. Here is another thing. Requirement: drive product velocity, shipping fast while holding UX and code quality. You can't do fintech fast. You can, but it's difficult. Contribute to product strategy. Every good developer does that. And here's what they're screening for. So, I mean, this is not an impossible hire. It does still seem like you're putting a lot on one person, even if they're using AI. Again, I keep saying that, but it's still, AI is kind of just, it's a thing that allows you to do things faster. And when it does the things, you'll still need somebody to go back in and then review it. Quick sidebar. A lot of the times when we hire, we don't just hire for one person, especially if we're doing the hiring process for a startup. You usually want one or two people, one or two full stack people at a time, mainly so that one person has their responsibilities and the other person has their responsibilities. But the real magic happens when you have these two people, these initial two people, looking at the pull requests. So let's say if you have a full stack but super strong on back end, and then you have a full stack but super strong on front end, they need to know what each other is doing, because if they don't communicate effectively, then the code won't communicate effectively. So super important that you, like, if you're hiring one engineer, you probably need two just off of that. Now let's see. What are these people screening for? Shipping production grade React Native, Sweet, mobile architecture, performance optimization, debugging. Again, if one person is focused on all of that, that is a full-time job. All the payment stuff is a full-time job. The performance stuff, you can do it iteratively, but difficult. TypeScript and modern React patterns, all of that stuff is out the window because Codex and Claude kind of does it for you, but you do need to have a good understanding of what it is. Product intuition. Actually, that is something that is hard to screen for, but is important. I would actually put that as the number one thing that you should be looking for. Turning complex flows into simple UI. That does require a little bit of design knowledge. Like if you have a developer or if you have a designer that spent 5 years learning development and is really good, that's a unicorn. You can hire them. They do exist. Otherwise, other programmers can do the same thing. Finally, problem solving and attention to detail. Yes, and both, general interest in consumer travel. Now, the thing here, one of the things that none of these job posters mention is proficiency with managing AI models. Now, they're building AI products from what I'm seeing, but there is a particular skill in actually leveraging AI models to get them to do what you want effectively. One thing that they should be screening for is, hey, if we give you this much budget, are you going to run out of that budget by the 14th? Or are you going to, make that budget work? It's not just, right now at least, it's not just being able to code, but you also need to be able to manage. And that management thing is, nobody's asking for it. The next thing that they should be asking for is, yes, production apps. Some people did ask for production apps, but what makes more sense is kind of bringing the person on and then teaching them, well, not teaching them, having them show you how they work and then integrating them into your workflow. So with all of this, all these job posts, what is your takeaway from this, or what should you take away from this? Here's what I would do. First, kind of hire for the right now skill level and code quality. A lot of these are kind of becoming normalized unless you hire somebody very senior. And if you hire somebody very senior, you'll get that kind of senior talent and expertise. If you're hiring for somebody with less than 10 years of experience, one, you do want to hire for culture fit. That sounds cliche, but it is important. If this person is going to be with you 3 days out, 3 days into the office, you should like them. Number one thing. The other thing is hire for agent proficiency. Agent proficiency doesn't mean that, you give them a task or you say, hey, push the product forward, and then they're just having the agents run, burning tokens and credits, and then not actually producing something. The measure of being able to use agents efficiently is being able to ship production level code that survives human interaction, that also brings in revenue. Everything else is just spending tokens for spending tokens. You don't want to be in that position. You don't want to get a $500 million bill, which was in the news recently. You don't want to get anything like that. You want somebody to ship features that make you money and don't cost you a lot of money to actually get those features done. None of these job posts did that, and that is unfortunate. The final thing is you probably need to hire more than one person. Hiring just one person and expecting them to manage the entire stack, even if it's mobile, there are things that happen. You are going to have to buy multiple Android and iOS devices to actually get this to work. And yes, you could do automated testing on certain platforms like Maestro to make things easier, but it still takes a lot of time to actually get this stuff done. So split across core functionality. Hey, Sally, you're working on this. Bill, you're doing the fintech stuff. You guys work together. Have clear separation of concerns. Even if they can manage 5 or 10 agents at one time, you still want the buck to stop with somebody, and then hire for those things over time. Don't put everything on one person. Hire at least 2 developers to start, and then you should be in a pretty good spot. All right. So that is the Vermillion Podcast. I hope that you got a lot from this, and I will see you next time. All right.